All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go over how to find trig ratios, but in order to find these trig ratios, we're going to use something called reference angles. All right, so just remember, a reference angle is created with the terminal side, the stopping side of your angle, and the x-axis, the closest x-axis. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to try and find the cotangent of 315 degrees. We're also going to try and find the cosine of negative 45 degrees. All right, so first off, we need a location. So 315 degrees is in quadrant 4. That's the biggest piece. That's one huge piece of information. All right, once we know that, we're going to try and find our reference angle. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a quick picture. I'm going to draw my angle in the fourth quadrant. Now, all the way around, that's 315 degrees. All right, now, what I want to do is I can't use the 315 degrees. I got to use my reference angle. Now, remember, a reference angle is with that terminal side where my arrow is pointing to and the closest x-axis. So right there in orange. All right, now, in order to be able to find that, I got to take the closest x-axis angle measurement, which is 360 in this case, and I'm going to subtract my theta. So when I do 360 minus 315, I'm left with 45. So that actually represents my reference angle. Now I'm going to use that 45 degree angle to help me find what the cotangent of 315 is. This is where our 45, 45, 90 and 30, 60, 90 right triangles come into play. So I'm going to go ahead and draw one out there. And we have to be careful. The reason we wanted to know the location is because sometimes the x values or the y values can be negative. So in the fourth quadrant, the x is positive, but the y is going to be negative. So x is a positive 1, y is a negative 1, and then my r value is the square root of 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work with this cotangent of 315. Now what that actually means is we're really working with the cotangent of 45 degrees in quadrant 4. That's what we're actually using, this 45 degree angle. Right, now, in order for us to find cotangent, remember there's a relationship between cotangent and tangent. All right, they're just reciprocals. So the tangent is y over x, which means cotangent is going to be x over y. All right, so I have my x value, which is 1, my y value, which is negative 1. My actual answer is just negative 1 in this case. So that's the cotangent of 315. Let's go over to the cosine of 45 degrees. Still in quadrant 4, the only difference is that instead of moving in a positive direction, going to quadrant 1, then to 2, then to 3, then finishing up in 4, I dropped straight down into quadrant 4. So I already know I'm in quadrant 4. We're still going to find that reference angle. All right, and in this case, it is a 45 degree reference angle. So not only is my angle negative 45, my reference angle, which is in orange, is also 45 degrees. So I'm going to use the exact same triangle, 1, negative 1, square root 2. My x is 1, my y is negative 1, and my r is square root of 2. But this time I want to find cosine. All right, so the cosine of this negative 45 degree angle is going to be my x value divided by my r value. X is 1, r is square root of 2. Remember, we're not going to leave it like that. I have to multiply my numerator and denominator by the square root of 2. I end up getting square root of 2 over 2 as my final answer. So that's my cotangent and my cosine for this one. We're going to go over 2 more. I'm going to go just a little, or 3 more, I'm sorry. We're going to go over a little bit quicker here. All right, so I've got these 3 angles, sine of 150, cosecant of 225, and then the secant of 60 degrees. Same idea, I want to be able to go ahead and draw and figure out where this angle is. 150 degrees is in the second quadrant. Reference angle now becomes 30 degrees. All right, I'm going to quickly put out my sides. So my y is going to be 1, my x becomes negative square root of 3, and my r value is going to be 2. All right, so if I want to find sine, it's my y over my r, which is 1 in this case, over 2. Pretty quick. All right, now we're going to go to the next one, cosecant of 225. So cosecant of 225, first off, find out where 225 is. 225 degrees is in that third quadrant. So there's my 225. Let's find the reference angle. I am 45 degrees past 180 degrees. So that's my reference angle. I'm going to go ahead and put down all my side lengths. Now it is a 45, 45, 90. X is negative, y is negative, r is positive. So x is negative 1, y is also negative 1, and my r value is going to be square root of 2. Now remember, we're finding cosecant. Cosecant and sine are related. They're reciprocals. So if the sine is y over r, the cosecant is r over y. So square root of 2 over negative 1 gets me negative square root of 2. Now the last one is going to be the secant of 60. So I'm going to draw it in the first quadrant. Not only is my angle 60 degrees, my reference angle is the exact same thing. So now all we have to do is put out our sides. All right, so the secant of 60 degrees is the same thing as cosine. Cosine is x over r. Take the reciprocal, it becomes r over x. Now my y is square root of 3, my x is 1, and my r is going to be 2. All right, so I take my r value, which is 2, divided by my x value, which is 1. I end up getting 2. So the main thing with this stuff is, where are you located? Quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or you could be located on an axis. If it's on an axis, just pick a point. All right, so figure out where you're located. Figure out what is your reference angle. And that's going to be the angle that is created with your terminal side and the closest x-axis. And then figure out what your reference angle actually equals. And then you're going to be using those side lengths of your 30, 60, 90 or 45, 45, 90. Now the main thing is, the reason we want to know the quadrant is so we can figure out whether x is supposed to be negative or y is negative. And then it's the same thing that we've been doing before, where if you know your sine, you know your ratios, your y over your r, x over r, y over x. Maybe you want to take reciprocals, just plug in those values, and then you can go ahead and figure out what that trig ratio is supposed to equal.